workout, as it is going to be more of a movement prep, introduction to resistance training type of video that you'll be following along at certain points, but it's more to kind of go over form and technique, also maybe some modifications of certain exercises given any limitations. So before we start, a couple of things that you should always have with you during the workouts. Okay, so you always should have an exercise mat, okay, or a towel to lay on. You should have a bottle of water, and you want to make sure that you've eaten something before the workout. Okay, so you don't want to eat on an empty stomach, especially if you do your workout in the morning and you hadn't eaten since the night before. Okay, you can't run a car on an empty tank. So just make sure a towel, mat, water. We are going to be doing bouts of cardio in these workouts, so you definitely will probably be sweating, so a towel is recommended. Okay, as far as effort goes, so 50% of your grade in this class is the workouts, and the biggest part of that, or one of the biggest parts of that, is the effort that you're putting forth during each exercise. So I want you to give 100% when you're doing these exercises. However, I also need you to make sure that you're listening to your body. Okay, so I don't want you to do it to the point that you're going to either injure yourself, cause yourself to feel lightheaded or dizzy. So if you are doing any of the exercises and you're not feeling well, or you have any sort of pain, obviously stop, contact me, and we can try to come up with some modifications to help alleviate some of the intensity or maybe some issues that you're having. Okay, so with that being said, a couple of other things that I just want to talk about as far as form, technique, speed of movement, things like that. So, so we talk about range of motion when we do our exercises. Okay, we're going to go through a full range of motion without locking our joints. Okay, so if I was going to do a shoulder press exercise, okay, I want to extend up, but if you notice, I still have some slight bend in my elbow, but I'm not locking the joints. Okay, so I want to go through a full range of motion. Okay, using 90 degrees is what my guideline is going to be. So 90 degrees I come down, and when I come up, I'm not locking. Okay, so my elbows are slightly bent. Same thing if I do a knee exercise. If I squat, I come down. When I come back up, I'm not locking my knees. My knees are going to stay soft. Okay, so we're going to lock our joints and move up to a full range of motion. Speed of movement. Alright, so we're obviously going to be lifting light weights. Okay, we're not lifting heavy, but still, you need to control the weight in both directions. Okay, so the ACSM, which is the American College of Sports Medicine, sets forth guidelines for exercise. Okay, and one of the things they talk about is speed of movement. They're saying you should be doing a 3-1-3 count. Personally, I think that's way too slow. It's a little bit robotic, so this is what a 3-1-3 count would look like. 1, 2, 3. Pause for 1, 1, 2, 3. Alright, so again, that's very robotic. Nobody's going to really work out that way. However, what I do expect you to do is to have a pause at the end of the movement or the end of the contraction. I'll talk about contractions in a second. Okay, so going back to that arm curl, it would be lift, pause, and then control all the way back down and pause. And lift and pause. Control the way back down. Otherwise, if you're not doing that pause and you're not controlling the movement, you're going to be using something called momentum. Okay, so we all know what momentum is, but when you're lifting a weight, what happens with momentum is this. Okay, so if I'm here, okay, so basically the force of that weight just flopping down like that allowed me to get the weight to here without me doing any of the work. It was the momentum. Okay, watch it now. I've done nothing. Okay, so versus this. Now this is all me doing the lift. Okay, so what happens in the weight room a lot of times, particularly with guys, is they like to lift weight that they're actually heavier than they're actually capable of lifting. So by using momentum, it allows you to do that. Okay, so it's on a bench press, on a shoulder press, on a row. Any of those type of exercise, even an arm curl, if you're lifting weight that's too heavy, by using that momentum, it allows you to get the next lift up. Okay, so even though we're not lifting heavy, I still don't want us to use momentum. Okay, so I want to make sure you have that pause. There are two contractions when you lift. Okay, there's a concentric contraction, which is the lifting part of the exercise. It's where the muscle shortens. And there's an eccentric contraction, which is returning the weight to its starting position in which the muscle lengthens. Okay, the bicep curl is a perfect example of this, right? So if I'm here, I'm doing my lift. Okay, this is the concentric contraction, the muscle is shortening. This is the eccentric contraction, the muscle is lengthening. Shortening, lengthening. The reason why I say this is because both contractions are important for strength development. But most people only focus on the concentric, and the eccentric that is kind of let the weight flop back. Okay, so when we're doing our exercises, okay, no matter what it is, concentric, control it, eccentric, control it. Okay, so I make sure we're controlling your movement in both directions. Breathing. I don't care at what point you breathe, but you should make sure you're breathing during each repetition. Okay, focusing on your breaths is really important, especially the way we're doing our workouts this semester. We're doing more interval type training where we're doing triceps. We're doing 3 exercises back to back to back with a little bit of rest in between. Okay, so focusing on the breaths is going to help keep the heart rate down. Okay, and it's also good to do during each rep of the weightlifting movement. Now, technically, you're supposed to exhale when you're doing the work, inhale when you're returning the weight to its starting position. Okay, so on a bicep curl, exhale here, and inhale. Breathe in through my nose, exhale out through my mouth. Inhale. Okay, so that's technically what you're supposed to do. I don't care if you breathe, exhale when you're lifting or returning the weight to the starting position, make sure you breathe during each rep. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to go through our warm-up. You're going to develop your own warm-up, or you probably have developed your own warm-up. Okay, but that's for you when you do workouts outside of the class. Okay, when we do our workouts in class, we're going to be using this warm-up pretty much each time. There's tons of different dynamic warm-ups you can do. I try to keep the same ones to keep it consistent, so everyone kind of gets into the routine. So what I'm going to have us first do is we're going to bring our arms back in front. We roll the shoulders up, back, and down. Keep arm circles forward. We're going to start off small. Gradually make them larger. Start off small, gradually make them larger. Okay, we kind of laughs at this one, but it's good for shoulder mobility. We're going to have one arm up 90 degrees, one arm down 90 degrees. Okay, and we're going to alternate. Okay, we do alternating knee lifts. And we're going to open up the hips. Okay, jog in place. And keep your heels to your butt. Dragon style. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take your right arm, have it up in the air. You're going to take a step with your right foot, and then you're going to take your left leg and swing it as high as you can. Okay, not to the point of discomfort, but as high as you can. And you're going to try to keep your upper body nice and tall. You're going to try and have your hand touch your foot like that. Switch to the other side. Don't force it. You can't get your hand to your foot. It's okay. Again, as high as you can, just feel that stress in the hamstring. Okay, and last, we're going to do a knee hug with a calf raise. Hug your knee, put up to your chest, and then do a calf raise with the other foot that's down. And good. All right, so I think that's something. Okay, we'll lean this down. You guys can use a broomstick, any sort of pole. Okay, if you have something like this, that'd be perfect for what we're going to be doing. But any of that will work, and we'll do that in a couple minutes. So, as you know from the equipment that I told you guys we needed from the beginning of the semester, you will need a set of dumbbells. You'll need a resistance tube with handles like this, and a mini band. Okay, so those are the 3 pieces of equipment that you need for the course. Alright, so the first thing we're going to talk about, as far as form and technique goes, is probably the most difficult position or movement pattern for people. It's called a hip hinge. Okay, a hip hinge. And the reason why hip hinge is so tough for a lot of people is people end up using their knees instead of their hips when they're doing the movement. So this is where we use our dowel. So if you don't have a dowel, again, either get a broom handle or some sort of pole that you can use that you can put behind your back. When we hip hinge, and I'm going to show you how to dowel first, and I'm going to stand sideways. We are looking to take our hips and push our hips back to the wall behind us, and we're keeping our chest up and our shoulders back and down. Okay, so I know it doesn't look that hard. Okay, but what a lot of times I see people do is either they bend their waist, they collapse their upper body, they bend their knees, okay, so they're not using the hips. They're not using the hips. So, what you're going to do is you're going to take your broomstick, your handle, or your dowel, and I want you to notice there's 3 points of contact. I have it touching the back of my head, it's touching in between my shoulder blades, and it's also touching my tailbone. Okay, so I'm going to maintain 3 points of contact. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hip hinge and maintain my 3 points of contact. Now my knees are bending, but my knees are only bending because my hips are pushing back. Okay, so I can technically keep my knees straight as long as I can, but I can get to a point where my hamstrings are too tight. That's as far as I can go. So now I can bend my knees, and I'm still pushing my hips back. What I don't want to see, and I see a lot of times, I want to see that in ankle, is this. Okay, so that means I'm bending at the waist. That means I'm bending at the waist. Now the other thing people do is they squat, so I see this a lot. And people say to me, oh, I'm not keeping my 3 points of contact. Okay, but this is not a hip hinge. So you need to see the difference between this, that's a squat, and that's a hinge. Okay, so I want everyone to practice this right now a few times. Okay, so take your dowel, or whatever you have, and we're just going to push the hips back. As far as you can, keep that chest up, 3 points of contact, come back up, do it again, come back up. Now, what I want you to try to do is you're going to find a wall. Find a wall, step against the wall. You're going to take a small step forward, very tiny step, like half a step forward. What you're going to do is this. Keep your 3 points of contact. Push the hips back to your butt touches the wall. It should be very simple. Come up, very tiny step forward. Push the hips back, and 3 points of contact, your butt touches the wall. Should still be pretty easy. Okay, take another tiny step forward. Push the hips back. See your butt touches the wall. Okay, now it's getting a little bit tougher. Okay, take one more tiny step forward. Push the hips back. Maintain 3 points of contact. Okay, I can't even touch the wall at this point, but I'm still hip hinging. Okay, so use the wall as your guide. Focus on pushing that butt all the way back to that wall behind you. Okay, another way to see if you're doing this properly is to take your down. Put it here, right against your thighs. Keep your shoulders back and down, chest up. If you are squatting instead of hinging, the down will not be able to slide past your knees. Okay, so if I'm squatting, I'm going to back up. Okay, so if I'm squatting, look what's happening. So I can't slide this down, my knees are getting in the way. Okay, if I hinge, the down slides past my knees with no problem. Okay, so squatting doesn't work, right? So if I squat, I can't get this past my knees. But if I hinge, I can get that to go past my knees. I don't expect everyone to be an expert in hip hinging after doing it for a couple of minutes. Okay, but it's something you should practice and work on because there are going to be some movements that we're doing in class that require you to hip hinge. So, with that being said, you're going to grab your dumbbells right now. It's going to do 2 exercises that require us to hip hinge. One is going to be a row. Okay, so we're going to make sure our knees are bent. So we're not going to be going back and forth, but we're going to get into that hip hinge position. Okay, so we're going to chest up, shoulders back and down, push the hips back. Okay, so we're going to be here. When you do this, guys, for the video, try to stand sideways to the camera so I can see if you're hinging properly. Okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to keep this position, and we're going to come up, squeeze the shoulder blades together, elbows back to the wall, and then back down, try to keep those shoulders back and down. Here we go. Squeeze, pause, come back down for 3. Make sure you're breathing. 4, breathe. So it's exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale. A couple more. Last 2. And good. All right. So that's a row. Reverse fly. Same thing. We want to hip hinge. Okay, so I get on hip hinge position. Chest up, shoulders back and down, push the hips back. We're going to start with our weights together. And we're going to come back here. And then nice and slow control back to our starting position. Okay, here we go. So let's squeeze those shoulders together. Come back down for 3. Breathe. 4. So it's exhale. Inhale. 6. 7. 8. 9. And 10. Okay, good. Next, you can use either your broom handle, stick, whatever, or you can hold on to something. And we're going to do what's called a single leg RDL. Okay, single leg RDL. And it's going to require us to get the body to try to move in unison and keep the back nice and flat. This is not an easy movement. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold on to your down. We're not going to use any weights for this right now. And what I'm going to do is, as I'm holding on to my down, one leg comes back, one arm comes forward, and I come back to my starting position. You can either do the same arm and same leg. Some people find it easier to do the opposite. Okay, so this arm comes forward, and then you come back up. Eventually, you want to use your weight. Okay, so eventually you want to hold your dumbbell and keep everything nice and straight, touch, and then come back up. the same direction. Okay, so that's a hip dominant exercise. So when we're not hip hinging, okay, we're using those glutes and hamstrings to perform the exercise. Eventually, you want to try to do this without the dowel. Okay, but in order to not collapse and have good form and technique, there's no reason why you shouldn't use the dowel.
I might be able to do it without the dowel.
Alright, so standing exercises. Whenever we do a standing exercise, especially with the dumbbells, we count with the tube, which I'll talk about in a second. But you want to make sure that you have a wide base of support. Okay, so your feet should be a little bit wider than hip width apart. Okay, why? Because when you start to get fatigued, if your feet are too close together, okay, what happens is you start to move the upper body. Okay, so by giving yourself a wide base of support, it's going to help stabilize a little bit more and prevent the upper body from moving so much. Alright, so I talked about this a little bit earlier in the video, but what I'm going to do is shoulder press right now. So we're going to start with our hands. Okay, so our wrists are kind of even with our elbows. And we're going to lift all the way up without locking. So extend all the way up without locking. Come back down 90 degrees. We're going to do 10 of these. Okay, ready? Here we go. So let's extend. Make sure you breathe. 1. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. 4. Make sure that nothing else is moving. 6. 7. Don't lock. 8. Remember to breathe. 9. Last one. And 10. Good. Alright, so whether we're doing a standing arm curl with dumbbells, or a shoulder press, or a lateral raise, okay, or a front raise, okay, you want to have that nice wide base of support. Making sure the knees are soft. With the tube, okay, so we can pretty much do almost all the same exercises with the tube as we do with the dumbbell. Okay, right, so I just showed you lateral raise, front raise, arm curl. Okay, so you pretty much do all the same exercises. Now, when you are standing on this tube, it is really important to make sure that the middle of the foot is on the tube. Okay, because if you have it all the way up at the top, or like the ball of your foot or the tip of the shoe, it can come up, come off, and hit you in the face. Okay, so make sure for safety purposes, you're in the middle of the tube. Now, if I have one foot on the tube, and I'm doing arm curls, it's going to be less resistant than if I have 2 feet on the tube doing arm curls. Same thing, the wider I go, so if I bring my feet out a little bit wider, it's going to create more resistance when I do my arm curls. Okay, so what happens sometimes when you get fatigued during the exercise, right? So maybe you're going to start out with 2 feet, and when you get halfway through, especially if you take the third set, you might be tired. Just take 1 foot out and continue with the workout. Okay, so I'm going to do some arm curls right now. And here we go. 1, 2. Squeeze the shoulders together. Make sure you're breathing. Deep, control in both directions. Last one. Good. Alright, so when we do a seated row using the tube, okay, for 2 reasons, we're going to wrap it around our foot. Alright, so I don't want to see this, where you're just putting the tube at the bottom of the foot. For 2 reasons. Number 1, no resistance, not enough resistance. Okay, but more importantly, again, if you don't have it in the middle of the foot and you pull, this can come off the foot and hit you in the face. Okay, so what we're going to do is this. I'm going to take this tube and put it around my shoelaces. Just kind of lay it on top of your feet. Then you're going to take this handle and wrap it around this foot, and this handle and wrap it around this foot. You're then going to sit up nice and tall. Okay, sometimes you have to adjust this a little bit because the elastic gets caught. So once you get in this position, you should be good. Now, check it out. If it's not resistant enough, okay, grab the actual tube, not the handle. Grab the tube, not the handle. You're going to sit up nice and tall, and pull back. Squeeze with those elbows right up to the wall behind you. Squeeze. Squeeze. 3, everyone's doing this. 4, 5, 6, control it both directions. 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so again, when we row, you can grab the handle or grab the tube, but make sure we're going to wrap it around each foot the way I just showed you. Okay, bow and arrow and lat pull down. Okay, so vertical pulling exercises like pull-ups, lat pull-downs, okay, are very difficult to do with tubes and dumbbells. Okay, so we can mimic it somewhat, okay, by doing a single arm lat pull-down and using our arm as a stabilizer, okay, to help act as an anchor. So think of a lat pull-down. Right, when you think of a lat pull down, you start here, you grab onto the bar, and you pull down here. Same thing when you do a pull-up. So that's a vertical pulling motion. So the way we can do that with the tube is we can wrap it around a few times, loosely around our hand, arms come up. My right arm is going to act as a stabilizer, as the anchor. My left arm is going to do the lat pull down movement. Okay, so I come here, and then I go back up. Okay, so I'm bringing my elbow down towards my hip, while the other arm stays up and stabilizes. Okay, wide base of support, we're going to try this. Here we go. So let's squeeze that one shoulder blade to the midline of your body. Squeeze. Squeeze. Okay, 2 more. 1. And 2, and then good, switch other side. You keep breathing. Now, when we do these type of exercises, you want to make sure that your weight is evenly distributed on both sides. What I mean by that is, I don't want to see this. Where your hips straight out to the side, and you're going like this. Okay, so make sure your weight's evenly distributed as you're doing this last one. Good. Now I keep my hands in the same wrap just like this and do what's called a bow and arrow. So this is going to be a horizontal pull. Okay, so it's not vertical, it's horizontal. Same idea, but instead of coming down, okay, I'm coming out. Okay, so think of, if you've ever in PE class in middle school, high school, did archery, okay, think of pulling back on a bow in archery. Okay, so one arm is going to be the anchor again, so it's going to stay straight out, stabilized. This elbow is going to be bent this way. And if I don't have enough resistance, I can either make it wrap it around more to make more resistance, or wrap it around less, obviously for less resistance. Elbows bent. And I'm going to squeeze back like this. Notice how my elbow is here. I'm not straightening it out. Okay, I'm just pulling back on that bow, and then coming back to my starting position. Okay, think about a rowing machine. All right, use a rowing machine, let it come back here. Same idea, so just one arm. Okay, so it's squeeze and back. Everyone's doing this with me now. 2, 3, make sure you're breathing. 4, 5, 6, 7, and we'll just stop at 8 for right now. Same thing on the other side. If you have to adjust the resistance, go ahead. One arm is the anchor, stabilizes, elbow bent. Come back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Good. All right. Squats. Okay, squats are still difficult movement for a lot of people. Okay, so what I want you to do, when you squat, a couple of things. So I stand far enough back so you can see my feet. Alright, so your feet should be a little wider than hip width apart. Okay, your toes should be either forward or just slightly pushed out. They shouldn't be out like this. Alright, when you squat, the most important thing is you need to make sure that your chest stays up, your shoulders are back and down, so not collapsing the upper body. When I go into my squat, when I descend into my squat, I want to make sure that my weight is pressed through the heels and the outside part of my foot. Okay, I'm going to bring my butt right back to the wall behind me. Okay, so I'll stand this way. Okay, I'm going to press through the heels. Press through the heels. So my weight right now is on the heels and the outside part of my foot. Chest is up, shoulders are back and down, and then I come back up. Now I want to try to go down until my thighs are parallel to the ground. So it's here, back up. For some reason, I see a lot of people, when they squat, they lift their heels up off the floor. So I don't know if it's a balancing issue, I think it might be. So I see this, they're afraid to sit back into it. Okay, so make sure the heels are pressed into the ground. If you're having trouble with that, there's a couple things you can do. Number one, and I don't know if everybody has something like this, a very small piece of wood. Very small piece of wood. And by putting my heels on this board, okay, it's going to give me a lot more stability, and it's going to make it easier for me to really press through the heels. Okay, so just by adding that little bit of a lift to bring my heels up onto, okay, that will help me sit back into it. Okay, so if you're having trouble and you're doing that, okay, I would suggest trying to find something small to put your heels on. If you don't have something small to put your heels on, the other thing you can do is use the broomstick or whatever you're using for a dowel. Okay, you just hold it here. By having this here, it's going to also give you a little bit more stability, and it might make you more comfortable sitting back into the movement. Okay, so you can sit back and hold on to this, and then come back up. Come back up. You can also use the wall. Okay, so use the wall. Move back a little bit, slide down, and then come up. And then come up. And you can also use a chair. Okay, so I can stand here, and I don't even sit, but just for comfort level, I'm just going to go down until my butt taps off the chair. Okay, so I'm going to sit back, and now I know if I do, I lose my balance, the chair is right there to catch me. Okay, so those are options to make sure that you have good form and technique on the squat. Okay, so don't just do regular squats if you're having trouble maintaining proper form and technique. Here's one of the modifications that I gave you. So either the wall, a dowel, something to put your heels up onto, a chair just to tap off of, or a chair to sit, so you can kind of do a sit-stand. A lunge. Okay, lunges, we're not going to have as many options, but when we do lunge, the biggest mistake I see people make, I'll stand this way so you can see, is they turn their back foot out, and again, it has to do for balancing issues. Okay, so what happens a lot of times when they go into their lunge, look at my back, you can see how my back foot turned out, maybe this way you can see better. See the back foot's turning out, okay, and people find they have more stability that way, but it's very bad for your knee. So you have to make sure that both toes are in the same direction when I go into my squat. So both toes should be pointing forward. Both toes should be pointing forward. Okay, when we do this, we can either do a body weight or we'll have weights in our hands. If you're having trouble with this, okay, so toes pointing forward, nice long stride, so he's not going past the toe. Okay, weight should be on this front leg. I'm going to drop that back knee almost to the floor, and then come back up and come back to my starting position. Same thing on the other side. I'm doing this with you right now. Nice long stride, toes pointing straight ahead. Drop the back knee. Come up, back to your starting position. Now, if you're having trouble with that back foot, if you're having trouble keeping the back foot straight, and when I watch you guys do this, I'll comment. I'm going to ask that you use your broomstick or your dowel. Okay, and what you're going to do, what I would suggest, instead of stepping into the lunge, start in this split stance position. Make sure the toes are pointing straight ahead. Okay, so you're going to start in this position here. Okay, toes pointing straight ahead, upper body nice and tall, right? So my chest is up, my shoulders are back and down. And I'm just going to drop the back knee and come up. Drop the back knee and come up. Okay, I know that everything's pointing in the same direction. Okay, that would be good form. You can progress from there to using the dowel and step it. Okay, so from here, now I go into my lunge. But I still have something to hold on to. Okay, to try to ensure, A, for balance, and B, to make sure that that back toe is pointing forward in the same direction. Okay, so that's lunging. When we do a line exercise or any line exercise, okay, so everyone grab their dumbbells right now. We want to make sure that our knees are bent. And the reason for that is because when we bend our knees, we need to ensure that we're pressing our lower back into the mat. That helps support our low back. Okay, so we want to make sure that the knees are bent. Okay, so everyone grab the dumbbells. Okay, we're going to do chest press right now. So we're going to start again with our hands so that our wrists are lined up with our elbows. Knuckles are facing towards the ceiling. And extend all the way up without locking. Exhaling out. Coming back down, nice and controlled. Just keep touching the floor, and then do another rep. Stand up, breathe out, breathe in. Everyone's doing this with me. Breathe out, breathe in. 4, we're going to do 10. 5, 6, slow control, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now we're going to rotate our hands. We're going to do a fly. Same idea. Arms are going to come out to the side. Our elbow has a slight bend to it. Come out to about here. And back up to our starting position. Making sure we're breathing. Exhale. Inhale. Make sure you're breathing. Shoulder moving in both directions. Obviously, if you have any sort of shoulder pain while doing this, please stop or limit your range of motion. So you're going to stop the movement before the point of any discomfort. Okay, so this is one where you might have a shoulder issue, you might have a little shoulder discomfort. So what I would do is I would just stop further before the pain might be. Okay, so that is a fly. Alright, next is going to be what's called a dead bug. Okay, so this is a kind of a, not awkward movement, but it's kind of a coordination thing. You look at the hang of it, it becomes a lot easier. So you're going to have your knees bent at 90 degrees. This is a core exercise. Your arms are going to be straight up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my left leg and straighten it, and my right arm comes straight back. The other arm and leg don't move. Then I come back to here. So again, right arm goes down, left leg goes forward. The left arm and the right leg don't move. Then I switch other side. Okay, so let's do 5 on each side. Here we go. So it's 1, 4, 5, and good. Alright, so from there, yeah, grab your dumbbell. I'm going to do something called a Russian twist. So what we're going to do is we're going to sit in a V-sit position. The further back we sit, the harder it's going to be. Also, if our feet are on the ground or in the air, it's also going to make it harder or easier. Okay, so feet on the floor is going to get a little easier. Feet in the air is going to get a little bit harder. Okay, so you need to get some sort of a V-sit position. Okay, again, the further back you go, the harder it is. You're going to grab your weight. You're going to bring your feet up or keep them on the floor. And we're going to twist from side to side. Alright, here we go. Ready? 1, 2, breathe. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Good. Alright, push-ups. So, I'm not a big fan of push-ups on your knees. Okay, push-ups on your knees is really not a good modification to allow you to get to the point where you do push-ups on your toes. So if you cannot do a push-up, a flat push-up, I'm going to ask you to try to do them on an incline instead. Now this incline is kind of high. Actually, let's lower this. Okay, so higher the incline, obviously the easier it's going to be, right? So the most basic push-up would be a wall push-up. So I'm going to start here. Then I'm just going to come in and back. Okay, so this would be the easiest push-up to do. But if you notice I'm maintaining good form, my back is nice and flat the whole time. Okay, the only joint moving is my elbow. My shoulders aren't moving. Okay, so that would be a wall push-up. From there, I can progress to doing push-up on an incline, and this is a pretty high box. Okay, so now I'm here on an incline, and I'm doing my push-ups. Again, the only joint moving is the elbows. Everything's nice and flat and under control. I can then make the incline a little bit lower by doing my push-up on this bench. Okay, and I'm doing my push-ups this way. Okay, and finally, I would progress to a push-up on my toes, on my hands, on a flat surface. Okay, there is literally hundreds of variations of push-ups. I can have my feet up, I can have my hands up. I can have my hands wide, I can have my hands closed. Okay, I can have a medicine ball in my hand while I do it. Okay, tons of variations. For right now, for our purposes, we're just going to use one of the progressions that I just showed you, or here, and down, up, everything is nice and flat and under control. So on everyone right now, you either find an incline, you need to pause the video, find an incline, can do your push-ups on, or flat on the floor. I don't want to see you on the knees, because we're going to do 10 together. Okay, and here we go. 1, 2, 3, breathe. 4, core tight. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Good. Now, plank. When we do a plank, I want to use the same thing that we did for the push-up. Okay, so I don't want to see a plank on the knees. What I do want to see is this. If you can plank, with your elbows directly under your shoulders, you hold yourself here like this. Okay, great. If that's too difficult, use your incline. Okay, use your incline. incline and hold your plank on the incline. Okay, so we'll look at a plank for a few seconds. When we get in the plank position, you're on the floor on the incline, and here we go. We're going to hold it, make sure you breathe, keep that core tight. Not for long, I just want to check everybody's form out. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. So now we're going to stretch. Okay, we haven't gone through obviously every single exercise that we'll be doing during our workouts. As far as the resistance training exercises go, but I feel like I've covered enough and given you some modifications to basically that will hold true for most of the things that we're doing. There will be some other things that I can kind of talk about during the workouts. I just didn't want to take a lot of time during the workout to explain things and give modifications. Otherwise, we'll be losing time during the workout. Kind of heart rate will come back down. It'll kind of ruin the flow of the workout. So, when we stretch, again, you guys have a flexibility assignment. You're going to come up with your own static stretching routine. Okay, however, for this class, we'll be doing my stretching routine. You can incorporate this or use your own when you work out outside of class. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is going to lay in a box. This is 1 knee bent. We're going to clasp our hand under our knee, close into our chest, roll the ankle. Keep breathing. Nice and slow, bring the leg up, feel the stretch in the hamstring and hold it.